And we're back on the show. You are listening to the ChatterBox with Ellen Hedger on Fishbowl Radio Network. And with me in studio, glad to have Anthony Foster. Anthony, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Delightful. And yourself, Ellen?
I'm doing good, doing good. We almost had a whole interview while we were listening to the music, but that's okay. We'll share it with the audience now while you're here and what you're here to talk about. So, you have, I've been very impressed. We should have opened the mic sooner, but you have a very special project you're working on. It's called Garage Guys.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and give the audience a backstory on what this is?
Well, basically, it's a destination with a purpose. It's for a place where automotive enthusiasts can come together and enjoy activities from, go-kart racing and having a hotel room customly designed from like Batman. In addition, it has multiple different, like a water park that's designed specifically to, assist with, challenge individuals. But at the same time, it's quite intriguing on the business strategy. So it's a plethora. So imagine a kind of a Great Wolf Lodge and a Six Flags kind of, and multiple different racetracks combined in one destination.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, where does this love for automobiles or the garage motif come from?
Well, I've always been, fascinated with automobiles and kind of cut my teeth in the automotive industry back when I was younger. Started turning wrenches, and I just found that cars are a wonderful way to connect with people. Everybody's had their first car, they remember it, and you see it in all the movies from the Fast and Furious, and even back in the days, from the Dukes of Hazzards or the Mystery Machine. And that was a way to kind of help for my challenged son to kind of move things forward.
Mm-hmm. Knight Rider, don't forget Knight Rider.
Oh yeah, I can't forget Knight Rider.
You can't go and talk about all those shows without Knight Rider. Now, you just mentioned you have a son that has a disability, is that
Yes,
correct?
he has Aspergers.
He has Aspergers. Okay, my daughter has Aspergers.
Oh.
So, kinship here already. So, as a parent, the ups, downs, sideways, back, forths of that wonderful disorder that can cause. So is he really into cars and garage things?
Yeah, he likes the industrial world and robotics and things of that nature. And the funny thing is, I think I've learned more from him than I've probably taught him.
Really?
So, well, I mean, having a child with Asperger's, you learn a great deal of interaction and communication, and how do you speak with them. And kind of my story is about 2 years ago, I was sitting there talking with him kind of what his career aspirations would be. And we give him that speech that, we tell all our children, hey, you work hard, you can become president, you can even change the world. Of course, to my surprise, he paused for a second, looks at me and says, hey, Dad, how have you changed the world? I was like, oh. So I had to start scratching the head going, how do I answer this to him,
Yeah.
And since that day, I've just kind of, on a mission to how can I help contribute and change the world. And it's, bridge that gap. And it's from kind of the automotive perspective and interacting with challenged individuals. And I've seen that there's a major gap from work establishments that incorporate, challenged individuals. And in Garage Guys, one of the unique aspects of it, too, is that it's, thought out from the ground up. It's not an afterthought. And it's amazing how intelligent some of these challenged individuals are once you connect with them. Mm-hmm. A simple way of putting it is my son went through testing processes, and they classified as a 30 IQ, which is classified as mentally retarded. Of course, now he's in the 7th grade, a straight A student with an IQ of 140. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of like, how did you do this? Mm-hmm. And I think that, us normal people per se, need to adapt and kind of see this perspective and build off of that type of mindset.
Right. And I can tell you that testing, when you just said that, everything just went from my feet up to my head, because when my daughter was tested, she wasn't talking, she wasn't verbal. Mm-hmm. I understood what she was saying, but nobody else did. That's that mother thing. And they gave her a verbal test, and when testing came back, okay, yes, she's got pervasive developmental disorder. That's what we got first. And we have mental retardation. Yep. And it's like, okay, so you gave a nonverbal child a verbal test. When you showed her a picture of a hammer, she did the hammering motion. She didn't know what to call it, but she knew what it was for. Just like with a fork, she kind of fed herself. So it's like, okay, well, I'm on a mission now, and have been on a mission for 25 years. So it is funny when you hear these similar stories, and people with Aspergers as well, very encyclopedic memories.
Yes.
She went through a whole phase with wrestlers, and I laugh because we just had WrestleMania down the street a couple of weeks ago. I mean, don't even start with this one and that one, and who does this and da da da. And that's why she does so well at art and art history. She can sit there and tell you every painting by every artist, but yet if she needed to start a conversation on her own, it's like geometry for me. It's difficult for her.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But I smile when you say that he's making straight A's and in 7th grade. So good for him, because show those testers what they didn't know.
Yeah, I think that we try to script things out a little too much,
Mm-hmm.
and I always kind of like to make the statement that Albert Einstein couldn't speak until he's after 4 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and phonetically and understanding the different. And that, I mean, if you take that one example, how many of those individuals are we missing, and to help reshape our mindsets and how we, our daily lives of how we work, play, and see things.
Right. And especially, too, with the rate of autism so high, 1 in 66 now, it's, these kids grow up to be young adults and grow up to be adults and grow up to be older adults. So obviously, the world is going to have to do some kind of changing when you have that stat.
Yes.
But I think this is phenomenal, and it cracked me up. I mean, when you said he turned around and put the question right back on you, because they've got honesty out the wazoo here. No filter.
I know. I mean, usually I don't get stumped like that, and I've been doing a lot of presentations to different
Not by
corporate
a 7th
American.
grader.
I know, and I'm like, at that time he wasn't even 7th grade; he was a 5th grader. I'm like, man, I'm like scratching my head, and I was like, I was just dumbfounded.
I better get on it right now.
I know.
So I think this is an ambitious project. So we were talking about it. You look out my studio window and you see Six Flags kind of to your right there.
Mm-hmm.
So give the background on what this is you want this to be.
Well, as I mentioned, it's kind of a destination as a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of it's automotive theme.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, not everybody's in the automotive thing, be it race cars or virtual reality. So we've incorporated, what I call for my wife is artistic type of landscapes. Back to kind of we mentioned in the break beforehand is, remember the movie Vacation?
Mm-hmm.
Chevy Chase, and you driving along and you want to see the world's biggest ball of yarn. Mm-hmm. So I took that kind of concept and I was like, well, how do we incorporate that type of touch feeling, in an interaction that you remember, and not be overly expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Right now you go to a lot of destinations and you have to spend so much for a place to speak. Sorry about that.
All right. I just moved his mic for anyone that was wondering what I did. Got to get him a little louder.
It's like really close,
Yeah, I know. He's like, what are you doing?
Be careful, it's in my mouth. So, but yeah, it's incorporating that and just down to earth. I mean, if you go to like Disney World and you see everything kind of, of a corporate feeling from that perspective, and I want to make it more original. Mm-hmm. So what we've done is we've designed this from the ground up, from subject matter experts, the people that do the heavy lifting. We have about 20 people on the team, from designing the water parks worldwide, even the water parks in Dubai, to the racetracks. And we've incorporated that feeling of a place that I want to go and stay there and come back again. So I always say is imagine kind of a Great Wolf Lodge type of setting where you walk into this industrial feeling type of hotel, and you take a elevator ride on a car lift. It's in cage, kind of a 1920s style, and then you get off and you go to your room, and let's say it's the M&M racing room, and the whole floor is covered with epoxy M&Ms, and you sleep in the peanut bed, and first thing you're going to take a picture in the family and share it around. And so it's kind of the social media and working with the marketing groups and sponsorship. So that's another key aspect is we're going to have the world's tallest slide. So it will be indoors, and yes, it will have elevators. That's one of the key things. And so a lot of people ask me, why do we have so many different activities? I was like, well, that's how you have a broad audience, and everybody doesn't want the same thing. And
right.
But you have the thrill seekers, you have the artists, you have the craftsmen. I mean, it is so many things to do. It'll be something for everybody. But the main purpose is back to those challenge individuals, and it's not an afterthought. We've designed it from the ground up, and it has to be so large today, is because small business is very challenging, and so we're taking these different concepts and just really reaching out to the crowd to make it happen and kind of shape it. I think that another beautiful aspect of it is that it is a great idea because so many people are involved with it. To me, a great idea is shaped by many. I just did, like I said, I don't wake up in the morning and go, hey, here's Garage Guys, and let's have a 3-mile track of shaped like the United States, and everybody gets to drive on it, kind of feel what a Formula One racetrack is. And so there's a connection, and make sure it's interaction, it's personal.
Right. So have people, when you've talked to them, maybe in airports or on planes, or like just even when you and I were talking at the break, if they go, you know what you really need? You need...
Oh, yes, indeed. One of the key individuals, Kevin Bartles, he's a manufacturing robotics kind of engineer, and I met him on the airplane. It's kind of funny because we argued for like 45 minutes, and he wanted to incorporate manufacturing aspects into it to build utility boxes, because it's also going to reach out to a lot of commercial fleets and things of that nature from body shops and toolboxes. And initially I was just going to have kind of a bolt-on strategy, so a very simple way of putting it. And I was like, there's no money into it. He goes, no, there is. It's just we're kind of behind the times on how we manufacture. So he's designed a system and laid it out where we can have a lot more module designs, so where these challenged individuals would do more assembly, and we could retool in a matter of 10 minutes. So it's, not only is it a great purpose, but it's also a great business plan.
Right. And the purpose obviously is to provide gainful employment for people with disabilities.
Correct. Yeah, it's a very broad statement, but I'm looking at it from people with disabilities, be it mentally or physically, veterans with different wars, and there's a connection with these individuals. I mean, every one of them I meet is just so optimistic, and they've had different, they're just grateful to be alive, and I need those kind of people to be around. I remember watching Rising Tide, his car wash down in, I believe, Florida. It's a very beautiful story, and they have this little episode that goes, all right, well, this challenged individual comes up and says, hey, boss, how many cars are we going to do today? And the boss goes, 1,000. He goes, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, anybody else would be like, no way.
Right. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. I'm going on my break right now.
Yeah, I know. It's like, see you later, bye.
Right.
I need to get on my iPhone.
Right.
And I think that there's a misperception about challenged individuals, and there's no doubt there's a learning curve, but once they come on cue, they'll, like you said with your daughter, is that they are very productive. I look at it as actually an advantage. And that's what we've designed this whole business model for, standardizing and scalability to provide a sustainable future for these challenged individuals.
Right. Wonderful work ethic. They really do. One of my favorite stories, I had Dr. Mark Ellison on my first show, and Mark is with the West Virginia Autism and Training Center. It's based out of Marshall University up in West Virginia. And Mark was telling me the story how they had a young man in place at a job, and he did a good job, and the boss the first day, was aware, he had had training and knew this individual had Aspergers, and so he goes up to the young man and says, you did so well today, we're so looking forward to you coming back tomorrow. And the young man just point blank said to him, well, great, I am too, and I hope you have something a little more interesting for me tomorrow. I thought, that guy's on his way up to the top floor. But that's what's the funny thing about it, is people need to realize that wasn't really a slam on the job. It was, they are just so point blank honest sometimes that you better watch what you say. But, oh yeah, I loved it. It was great, but I hope I hope it's better when I come tomorrow.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that filter.
That
much.
Water cooler talk. They need a little help with. But I'd love to be able to go in and tell my boss that sometime. We have a little more fun this week than we did last week. Now, you said that you kind of have a location picked out here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Correct.
And your background is in fleet management, so it is with cars and trucks and things that move.
And that was a connection. Initially I started trying to focus on a restoration shop, and looking at the designs, and does it have a sustainable future? And when I went through all the numbers and the different design, that really didn't have it. So that's how I incorporated the entertainment setting. And it just kind of blossomed from there. And there's two things that we took away, early on, is that I took away time and money. So I put that off to the side and just focus on the original aspects of the business model. What would you like to change, a destination? And really, is it something that's large enough that's really kind of changing the landscape for challenged individuals? And that's how we come with the Garage Guys. So we'll have over 1,700 acres of space. We'll have more racetracks than any other location in the world. We'll have more square footage from an indoor water park. So it has multiple different sections. So we'll have a lazy river that's kind of, you float through like a museum, and you see the Model T, vehicle, and then you can have any color but black, and then you see the first combustible engine. So it's also educational at the same time.
Right.
And then the other section of the lazy river is kind of fun and interactive, so you get different Garage Guy points for completing different tasks. That's kind of like the interaction portion of it. I've already had conversations with Wipeout on designing a whole section just for the beginners and all the way to moderate, and then also the experts that are able to go through that ninja style thing.
Right.
But you're kind of going through engine blocks or rocker arms and in that automotive type of industrial feeling. But you can shoot individuals with water cannons and make it interaction, so you can use these Garage Guy points. So anybody wants to shoot someone off a cannon,
Sure,
water.
Sure. I think that's great. Now, I guess that's such a big vision. And again, I'm as I'm looking at you, I've got the shockwave right behind your shoulder there,
Correct.
and I'm looking at that. And we talked a little bit about Disney and things like that. Those parks, though, seem to have lost something, don't you think?
I agree. I mean, I think that they've overcomplicated it in regards to reaching out to its customer base, and it's not very interactive. As everybody knows, you go to these establishments, you wait in line for an hour. I mean, and you pay so much money. I mean, do you actually feel like you've got your money's worth when you walked away?
Mm-hmm.
And really, most people don't.
Right.
And that's a sad feeling. I mean, who wants to go stand in line for a whole hour to watch one ride that's 2 minutes? So we've taken that type of approach, going and remind you, I can't stand waiting in lines. I don't even like going to Walmart, So we've designed everything that you wouldn't wait more than 10 minutes for each different ride.
Mm-hmm.
And we have more rides than Hurricane Harbor indoors.
Mm-hmm.
And that being said, is our occupancy rate's about 8,000 people, which is 1/4 of Hurricane Harbor, and then plus you can do it year round.
Right, with it being inside.
Correct.
Absolutely. Now, what are you looking at for cost for this project?
We've approximate cost is around $350 million.
Okay.
And
Oof.
yeah,
Let me write you a check.
Just write me a check, please.
My husband just fainted.
Yeah, it might bounce 350 million times.
It might.
So.
Yeah, it's going to bounce higher than you realize. But gosh, that is. But for such a big investment,
Yeah, and that's the great thing about working with all these subject matter experts is that this is their field,
Mm-hmm.
and we've went through and they've helped shape and design that. I've kind of given them a little nudge here and there. And Alex, he's the one that's doing design of the water park, and I remember him sending me an email, and he goes, "Hey, Anthony, are you from this planet?" And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Because this is the best dang water park in the world, design." And I was like, "Well, we kind of debate back and forth." I said, "Well, you designed it." "No, you designed it." And that's the beauty of it, is that we all designed it,
Mm-hmm.
and incorporate these different aspects into it to really make it world class.
Mm-hmm.
I find it entertaining when I look at these other large corporations and how they approach with their customer base. You go to Dubai. Have you heard of Ferrari Land?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's kind of entertaining. You go on their website and you see, I haven't been to Dubai. I can't afford to fly over to Dubai.
No, I've not been, but I've heard of her.
So, I mean, they got a roller coaster that's trying to make it look like a Ferrari. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound too intriguing or interactive.
Mm-hmm.
It is the fastest one, but it's not nearly as fast as riding around a car.
Right.
So we were like, well, is it interactive? And you look at the activities, I'm like, wow, we got a whole host of ideas and strategies. They're actually opening up another theme park in Europe from Ferrari, and China too. So, the concept of having this automotive connection or theme park is quite unique. from that perspective.
Now, I think if I'm right, you're not going to do any kind of like roller coasters or things like that.
No.
Why is that?
Well, one is a business strategy, because you have this large investment of roller coaster and it's fixed, and you're not able to adapt. So if you kind of
it's there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm picking on Six Flags here because I'm looking out at them, so I'll probably get in trouble. But you look at the rides, and now they have virtual worlds. You get on there, and it kind of gives you a different perspective. And I'm like, well, it's just fixed. So imagine you getting into a car and you have open plane, and you have interaction, and you actually can control it. And they have these helmets that you sit on, and it's like you're in a video game. Literally. And of course from the outside it looked like you're crazy because you're just going around in circles, but you're driving along and you have bolters, you have fire being shot out, and it just makes it a whole different touch and feel of the driver experience.
Right.
And you ask most people, would they rather ride go-karts or go on a roller coaster? Most people would say go-karts.
Yes.
And it's been like that since I was young, and anybody.
It's amazing how adults will still pay to drive, even though they can drive for free. You know what I'm saying? Like with the Formula One little cars they do, or the go-karts. I love going on go-karts.
I know it's so basic, and I find that entertaining because you wait in line. It's so hot, and we made sure everything's indoors and staged indoors, so it's kind of like Speed Zone, but with a pole position twist and interactive. So, for example, on our promotional video, you get a chance to see it's kind of got a Mario Kart twist. So if you ever played Mario Kart, you get a chance to drive along and shoot red turtles and slow down other cars, and you also get a chance to race what I call the Google bot, but we'll look at trademarks on that perspective, but a go-kart that raced itself.
You've got lots of people coming after us now. We got Google, we got Six Flags, we got Disney. We're in trouble here today.
Yeah, well, I'm just taking on the world.
Right.
So, and
why not?
Why not? I mean, the whole thing is, if we can make the world better, and kind of reshape it and focus it, that's my main goal.
Absolutely. Now, looking at your literature here, it looks like you're saying you're not going to have any VIP programs, nothing special like that. I know, again, sorry Six Flags, sorry Disney, they sell those fast passes, which on top of what you've already paid to go in, you pay more so you can go to the top of the line.
Correct.
So you're like double paying, which I think is ridiculous, but I know people that have done it.
Yep.
Because they want to get on, the more popular rides and make sure they ride. So what is the thinking behind that?
Well, we're all equal. And, just because you have the funds to pay for something and then cut it in line, it just makes the experience for the everyday folk, a lot worse. And I don't think that's definitely not our mission. I dislike it in every different aspect. That's more of a corporate approach. And having a setting that is, unifying each different group, and everybody's treated as, what I look at as VIP, from everywhere in the design of the whole concept, I think that's important. I mean, it's not just show